Thank you so much for joining us at the 5th annual Bluecore Summit. There's 300 of you in the room, and we're so excited to share all the things that we've been working on for the last 12 months, learn from you, and talk about how we can accomplish more together. Our mission is to empower brands and retailers, all of you in the room, to discover your best customers and keep them for life. When we made it possible to connect your product catalog to analytics without backend integrations to make it possible to do powerful triggers with a line of code, it was towards this mission. When we took that data set and made it possible to do predictions using advanced analytics and machine learning, it was also towards the same mission. And last year, when we announced Bluecore Communicate, which is a full email platform that was going to revolutionize what email service providers historically stood for, it was also towards the same mission. And we have made significant advancements in email and beyond that we're going to walk through today. At the core of all of this is a lot of data. We observe over 110 billion behavioral events every year. These are things like what are consumers searching, what are they browsing, what are they adding to cart, all in a way that is connected to the product catalog. We see more monthly unique visitors today than Twitter sees amongst the 400 brands that we work with. And we combine this with over 200 million products and SKUs in our catalog, which is bigger than Walmart's catalog by 50 million SKUs. And what we do with that is we apply advanced behavioral and machine learning-based audience segmentation. And what this allows us to do is figure out what are consumers likely to purchase? What are they likely to replenish? What customers are likely to buy a discount versus full price? All using that data set. And we don't stop there. We want to take action with it. We turn it into tens of thousands of campaigns that automatically deploy and generate revenue. To date, Bluecore, along with all of you and the 400 brands that we work with, has generated over $3.7 billion in attributed revenue across the board. We believe in generating actions and results from this data. Very excited about this milestone. The reason we're all gathered here today is to talk about the consumer, because that's what all of you wake up thinking about. And I wanted to introduce a concept of Consumer 3.0, which is a term that McKinsey coined to represent the current generation of the consumer that is highly connected, demands a lot of choice, and wants convenience. Consumers evolve as a function of the platforms they choose to spend time on, whether it's who they choose to message their friends and family on, where they decide to shop, and how they look at continuously removing the friction from the buying experience. And the direct-to-consumer movement is a result of the evolving consumer. Direct-to-consumer used to historically stand for the digitally native vertical brands, but the definition has evolved significantly since then. If you look at Casper's, Warby Parker's, the Glossier's, they're not just digitally native anymore. They meet the consumer where they are, whether it's a billboard, a store, offline, in direct mail, and so on. On the other hand, you have amazing brands like Nike that have historically sold traditionally through offline that are investing heavily in direct-to-consumer as well. And when you look at retailers like Cabela's and Foot Locker, they're also investing heavily in understanding consumer preferences to go direct-to-consumer. In short, every business today has to adopt a direct-to-consumer mindset. It doesn't refer to a specific kind of business anymore. It's everyone. And to think about what powers the direct-to-consumer movement in terms of technology, that's where we spend a lot of our time. Because as consumers evolve, the underlying technology that communicates with them has to evolve as well. And to do this, I want to take a step back to over 50 years ago to show you how this landscape has evolved. Consumer 1.0 was the age of mass marketing using data. There were two companies that were behind powering this, Epsilon and Acxiom. Both of these companies have roots back to 1969. When they put together a data set, Acxiom ended up becoming one of the biggest consumer databases with tens of dozens of attributes that were used to do marketing through static media. 1969. That was a long time ago, and we still use a lot of the underlying technology today. Consumer 2.0 involved taking some of the same concepts and applying it to digital. 3 major categories of software came about in this era. The DMP. Companies like Bluecore and Crux came about because third-party cookies became a way that you could use data to target audiences anonymously through display. Companies like Teradata, Unica, which straddle the boundary between data management and audience management, came about to house first-party data. And then high-scale messaging systems, primarily on email, like ExactTarget and Responses, came about in the early 2000s as well. Many of these systems are close to 20 years old today. So while we're living inside of the direct-to-consumer revolution, it's hard to see what the future of this technology stack will look like. But I guarantee you, if you fast forward 10 years, it's not going to be the consumer 2.0 tech stack that powers it. And this is not because we're building technology for technology's sake. It's because there is a business reason that is very relevant to retail that's making it necessary to rethink what the stack looks like. One of them is the retention debt spiral. This is a result of using consumer 2.0 tech in a direct-to-consumer world. And it looks like this. Because the new consumer is ever fleeting and has a ton of choices, there is a decline in repeat purchase rates. On average, less than 12% of consumers across the board buy more than once a year. You combine that with the fact that it takes twice as long for the consumer to buy a second product compared to 5 years ago. And you have to pull the lever that you have that is easily accessible, which is promotions, discounts, offers, in order to generate demand, as opposed to using other strategies using data. And when you look at marketing, which is primarily responsible for driving traffic, loyalty, revenue, versus merchandising, which has goals around sell-through of products, there is a conflict here that consumer 2.0 tech cannot optimize for, at least in a way that is not highly efficient. And this was not as big of a concern in the first generation of direct-to-consumer because you could just acquire customers. Fill the top of the funnel when your cost of acquisition was pretty good. But going into the holiday season, the top concern for brands and retailers heading into the holiday season is rising ad spend amongst shipping, amongst customer service, amongst returns. And it makes sense because ad costs have gone up 14x in the last 7 years on Facebook. But it doesn't all have to be this way because there are ways many brands, many of you, are using advanced data-driven direct-to-consumer strategies to approach marketing to consumer 3.0 in a new way. And I want to share 3 examples of how brands are doing this and what's underneath it. First is Sephora. Sephora has had a tremendous year, both in North America and in Asia, online and offline. But this team has been relentless in finding new ways to drive more repeat purchases, more replenishments across products without increasing the amount of resources and the amount of workload that their team has to undertake. By using Bluecore's next best category model, which determines the best product in a particular category at an individual level and automatically executes a campaign against it, they were able to drive a 6.3 increase in conversion rate, 8.4% increase in revenue per client. And the way they did this was by having business users and marketers have easy access to first-party data. Sephora has an advanced data science team, but Bluecore makes it possible to act on that data at high speeds. ELLIS had a different initiative. They wanted to optimize for margins. And the way ELLIS does this is by using Bluecore's discount affinity models to determine what customers are likely to buy at full price versus discount, which is not a straightforward segmentation exercise, combining it with the likelihood of customers that are likely to convert in a given week, and assessing their churn risk as well. And the results of this are staggering. Over 100% increase in open rates, 2.4x increase in conversion rates, and taking some of these tactics and scaling it across their email program has resulted in a double-digit growth in email revenue across the board. Email revenue, not just on certain programs, holistically. This work was featured in the Apparel magazine, and ELLIS got a 2019 Top Innovator Award specifically for this work. And then finally, BCBG has a great example of how they walk the fine line between hitting email targets using their batch campaigns and making up the gap without sacrificing on subscribes And the way they do that is by using Bluecore's likelihood to unsubscribe models, along with matching customers with products at an individual level and executing campaigns when they need to hit a specific business goal. 20% increase in average order value, which has massive implications on their profitability. So what's common between all these three brands and the many examples that many of you are a part of today? I wanted to take a step back and look at the business process behind digital marketing. Any business process can be broken down into 3 steps. You observe, you decide, and you act. This becomes interesting when you overlay the digital marketing technologies on top of this that help us accomplish these actions today. Observation tools are typically analytic systems. Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, these are systems that can ingest large amounts of data and visualize it in some way or make it available in another system. Once you have that, you have to make decisions on top of that. The way you make decisions, there's a lot of ways you can go about it. Many of you use some type of statistical analysis software. Some of you use machine learning models to score your customers based on different propensities, and you take that data set and put it in some type of data or audience management system. And it's not done. Once you're done with that, you have to take action on it. Action systems are typically email service providers, marketing clouds as you've come to know them. A lot of these are consumer 2.0 technologies, especially on the action side of things. And when you look at the people process and the organizational processes in between them, the main interface that is used to communicate between the systems is a list. A list that is likely static. It doesn't have a lot of context at the individual level about the consumer. And by the time you're done taking action, you also have to take that feedback. And there's a lot of manual work in terms of observing the output and using the feedback to get better again. But there is a better way, because this is the promise of AI. The promise of AI is that it can analyze a lot of data really fast, make smart decisions using it, and take the action without a lot of the manual workflows in between. And we believe this is what it takes to move at the speed of direct-to-consumer, because passing lists around and having human workflows for what AI can achieve is standing in the way of the D2C revolution. And retail has a tremendous opportunity with AI. This is a report from McKinsey that shows the expected impact of AI over the next decade amongst different industries. Retail is by far hundreds of billions of dollars on the top right. And the reason for this is because we have access to lots of data. We operate in a world where there's a closed feedback loop with consumer preferences. We have the ability to pivot on the types of products they see, the offers, and so on. But the ability to make decisions is only one part of it. You also need to take action. And email presents an amazing opportunity, even today, much stronger than before, to take action. This is showing the preferred method of contact by brands today: email, SMS, social media, and so on. Email, by far, according to consumers, is the best preferred way of communication in North America. In the last 2 years, time spent in email clients has gone up by 20%. And there is a huge opportunity to add consumer value. When you look at the top 4 areas where consumers derive value, number 1 is giving them additional incentives to purchase, because that's what we've trained them to do. And at 37%, that's actually down from 50% 2 years ago. So we've made progress, but there's a lot more we can do. But the last 3 areas where consumers derive value, when it comes to making them aware of products or brands that they were not aware of, reminding them of purchases that they need to make, and to help them choose between multiple products or products that they didn't know they wanted, this is where AI can automatically take action. And this is why we built Bluecore Communicate, the only platform that can take all 3 steps of observing, deciding, and acting in one holistic system with the most advanced retail-specific AI. And to tell you more about this, I'm so excited to welcome Shireen Halal to stage, our VP of Product Marketing and Business Operations. She's going to share all the work and success we've had with Bluecore Communicate today. Shireen, the stage is yours.
Okay, so Faiz just described how Bluecore Communicate was built in anticipation of this future state of retail marketing, one that we now call direct-to-consumer. But it was also built because of a really alarming trend. And this is a trend we talked about a lot last year at our summit. And that is the trend that has emerged because of the necessity to get out of this retention death spiral. And one of the only levers a lot of brands have today to get out of that retention death spiral is to send more email. And yet, the more email that you send, the paradoxical issue is that the less revenue that you're actually making. So why aren't ESPs able to help you get out of that retention death spiral today? Well, the predominant ESPs on the market have been built between 1999 and 2003. You have ListTrack built in 99, you have ExactTarget built in 2001, you have Responsus built in 2003. And just as a reminder, 20 years ago, the #1 game on the internet was Snake, that you were playing on a 1x1-inch green-lit Nokia screen. We were all saving files to floppy disks, and we were dialing up to the internet. So it's no surprise that in that 20-year period of time, the advancements in technology to meet the consumer needs have required a massive change. And yet, very little has actually changed with regard to how we manage our day-to-day within the ESPs. We're still managing customer data through lists. We still have very manual workflows that take hours and hours to launch a single campaign. And we still have, although automation has brought a little bit of speed to the repetitive tasks, a lack of intelligence that really is holding retailers back. So when we thought about what Bluecore Communicate needed to be, we wanted to build something that could replace the optical illusion of consolidation that exists today through ESPs, through bolted-on add-ons, and through these hot-wired APIs. And so what we decided to do is list all the required capabilities we thought were going to be required and necessary to help brands actually drive more revenue with less effort. The first required capability that we think is critical if you actually want to drive more revenue from your ESP is the ability to observe. So an ESP that observes allows you to unify and identify customer data, behavior data, product data, and consolidate that into a single retail data model. We believe that the ESP has to have the ability to decide. So it has to be able to score, to learn, to recommend, all through AI to make it very easy for you to know what product to show your consumer, what offer to show your consumer, and what content to show your consumer. And the last thing that we knew was going to be really critical is, of course, the ability to act. So that means that you have an ESP that can trigger and manage a workflow very easily, and it needs to be built specifically for retail. And when you bring all of those capabilities together, we knew that it couldn't just be about transforming what the category of ESP meant. It also had to live up to a couple of really critical metrics. So the first metric, of course, is scale. When you think about scale, you have to think about modern infrastructure. Modern infrastructure is not just about moving data from point A to point B, and it is definitely not just about throughput. It is about intelligence. And intelligence means the technology needs to be able to support content that is as dynamic as your consumer. When you think about the legacy ESPs, they were built for very simple transactional sends. And what that means is when you add in things like dynamic products, complex segmentation, multi-touch journeys, it becomes very expensive for them to be able to manage that. And the result is that your hard work gets capped by throttling from those technologies, which makes it hard to personalize more and more of your sends. When you compare that with an ESP that is purpose-built for personalization, you see an incredible difference. Just through Bluecore Communicate, we have 15x the personalized throughput of a traditional ESP because we are built to enable that level of intelligence to personalize 100% of your communications. The other metric we took a look at is what is the average percentage of email that a brand is able to personalize through our tools. So not just because of the infrastructure do you see a lack of personalization through those ESPs, it's also because the tools that are available to you to actually do that personalization don't exist. So it's no surprise that less than 10% of email programs are personalized through those technologies. Again, you compare that with a Bluecore Communicate customer, and the difference is astounding. You have our typical email programs are personalized at 80% plus for customers using us as their full ESP. And I would be very remiss if revenue wasn't on this list as well. So revenue, of course, is the last critical thing that we wanted to measure to take a look at us versus what else was out there on the market. And we know through this retention death spiral that as email volume is going up, revenue is going down, and that decline is getting worse and worse every year. Again, you compare this with Bluecore Communicate, and on average, Our customers see a 25% lift in revenue just in year 1 by migrating over to Bluecore Communicate. And what's even more astounding is the AI that exists within the system to continue to learn to make sure that the next best email that you send includes all of the key elements needed for someone to convert, helps that revenue continue to be sustained year over year. So Bluecore Communicate, again, built from the ground up to allow us to use AI and predictive scoring to determine the who, the what, and the when of an email program that you're delivering. But it's not just that. There's a lot of workflow tools and components as part of Bluecore Communicate that make this possible. The first thing that is very unique to Bluecore Communicate is this concept of a smart campaign. So a smart campaign is a first of its kind recurring self-learning campaign that determines the optimal smart recommendations within a single email. So imagine a campaign that can replace a typical broadcast send or a personalized email that you send out every week, and it will determine the right content, the right offer, and the right recommendation so that the most compelling creative you have, the most compelling offer you have, and the best product recommendations are shown to buyers and non-buyers alike as they are engaging with your list. And this is all built on top of Bluecore Auto Prioritizer. So Bluecore Auto Prioritizer is an algorithm that determines the send time, the priority, and even the frequency of the email. So again, through a single campaign that replaces a weekly send, you can communicate to a full-price buyer new arrival products and a free shipping offer versus to a discount buyer with the latest dropped priced products along with a gift with purchase. And all of that is done through a single campaign with zero manual work, just the typical template setup that you do for all of the email programs you have today. So let's take a look at a couple of retailers who have been really successful migrating over, and they had a lot of the same challenges most people in this room today had. So we'll start with Volcom. Volcom, again, like a lot of retailers, started with a program that was not very personalized. Less than 20% of their emails were personalized, and they were acquired earlier this year by Authentic Brand Group, so a PE company. And they had then a double-down mandate around acquisition and email productivity as part of this. So when they decided to come to Bluecore as a partner, we decided to launch a couple of key products to get them off the ground very quickly. The first of those was Bluecore Capture. So Bluecore Capture radically improved their identification rates to be able to identify and link the right content and the right offers through an email overlay that existed on their e-commerce site. As soon as you then have this identified traffic, you want to be able to keep them, acquire them, convert them at a faster speed than typical. And so a smart campaign was set up to, again, connect all of the Volcom buyers and non-buyers alike to the right content, the right offers, and the right recommendations. And you can see they saw a 54% lift in revenue per email just through a single smart campaign. And this was done through a team of one. So Courtney Meehan is actually here today. She's leading a roundtable a little bit later. And she can walk you through not just these results, but a lot of the other outstanding things that the Volcom team did. You have Ashley Home Store. So again, like a lot of you in this room, Ashley Home Store is looking to maintain their market leadership in the face of a very disruptive D2C environment within their segment. And not only that, there is some uniqueness to how regionality plays into how they are able to do different offers. And so historically, this has been a very manual process. Their team has to determine with merchandising all of the offers, all of the products, and it has to be distinct by geo, and it has to be distinct by buyer group, and it's been very hard through their legacy ESP. So because of the disruption in the D2C space, they determined that personalization is a strategy they really wanted to invest in order to get more engagement from their customers. And again, just through a single smart campaign that replaced one of their weekly sends, they were able to see a 40% lift in revenue per email. But what's even more astounding to me is the decline in unsubscribe rates. So customers engaging more and more with that content allowed them to do something that I know a lot of us in this room understand the difficulty of, which is improving the deliverability and the inbox placement just through better emails. You have Original Penguin. So again, like a lot of us in this room, they struggle with this retention death spiral, and because of it, decide to send more and more email to try to climb out of that death spiral. And in doing so, they are very wary of losing loyal customers to the symptom of too many emails as they try to keep their revenue up. So they came to Bluecore to try to partner in a way where we could help them prioritize and manage the frequency of their emails without having to do it through the traditional list cuts and the traditional analytics that are highly manual today through other systems. And just by enabling a single feature, so Auto Prioritizer is a simple setting on the back end of Bluecore, they were able to see a 3.3% lift in incremental e-commerce revenue. So again, flip of the switch, 3% incremental email revenue, which means from non-buyers and first-time buyers converting for a second time. And last but certainly not least, we have Hammacher Schlemmer. So I learned a very interesting fact about Hammacher yesterday during the user day, which is they have one of the oldest catalog businesses. So 171 years, they've had a product catalog. So it's no surprise that the depth and breadth of that catalog can make it very hard for an email marketing team to determine what products and recommendations need to exist for their consumers. And because of the lack of personalization, it became really hard to manage deliverability. So when Hammacher partnered with Bluecore, we were able to migrate them over to Bluecore Communicate. They saw a 66% increase in deliverability, and not only that, a 210% increase in revenue. Just again, by launching a smart campaign that enabled some of the engagement that helps consumers get those emails into their inbox, and then once they click, actually convert and become loyal customers. And it's not just customers that are taking notice. So we were really humbled this year to be placed by the Relevancy Group, which is an analyst community, as the #1 ESP on the market compared to a lot of the legacy ESPs out there. And the things that we were noted for were things around product innovation, AI and ML, customer service, things that we invest very deeply in as a company and that we think is, again, another set of required capabilities for brands to be able to generate more revenue with less effort. So Bluecore Communicate, only modern ESP right now in the market that helps you save time, make money, and do so very efficiently with an amazing consumer experience. I am very excited for you guys to see what's coming next. So I'm going to introduce Max Bennett, SVP of Product and one of Bluecore's co-founders, to tell you what's coming. Thank you.
All right, so Shireen walked you through all of the really exciting success that we've seen over the last 12 months. What I'm going to talk about is all of the things that you can expect to see from our product and engineering team over the next 6 to 12 months. And these are just some examples of the things that we're going to build. So you can think about our investments in 3 areas, and they're very aligned to the framework that Faiz and Shireen were talking about around observing, deciding, and acting. So firstly, we want to make sure that it's very, very coherent and efficient the way that you observe what's happening in your business and with your customers. So we're going to talk about some investments that we're making there. We also need to make it smarter the way that we make decisions around what products to push to whom and what to talk about when we're communicating to a consumer. And we also want to augment the types of decisions that we can make, the type of actions that we can take. So let's talk about observe. So the #1 thing that we want to observe is performance. And the hardest thing about measuring performance is, of course, incrementality. So what we've seen our most advanced customers do is that they upload a holdout group, and they then, over some time period, go back to their analytics team and say, here's a holdout group that I've been persistently holding out from certain campaigns. Can you help me understand the incremental lift? And it becomes this nightmarish process. And what's so hard about that is, if we're going to be digital marketers, it's so essential for us to actually understand what is the shift in consumer behavior based on what we're doing. So what we're going to be launching is something we call one-click holdout groups. What this means is on any campaign that you want to measure incremental lift, instead of going through that whole belabored list management process, all you're going to do is push a button and say, I want to hold out 10% of the audience. Bluecore will automatically randomly hold out an audience, and we will report on the incremental performance over whatever time period you want on whatever metric you want. In addition to this, we're actually going to be rolling out a completely new analytics platform. Because what we've found, especially as we've expanded our customer base so substantially, is that there is no one-size-fits-all for analytics. So everyone has different ways they like to think about things. Some people really care about year-over-year performance on a monthly basis, sometimes on a weekly basis. Sometimes people really, really care about revenue versus traffic. So what this is going to enable us to do as Bluecore is we're going to be able to customize dashboards for every individual client. You're going to be able to have specific requests of how you like to see things, and we can completely customize it for you. You're going to be able to go in and dive into different cuts of data. You're going to be able to export in any way you want. And it's also going to support this is something folks have been asking for a while, visual heat maps, where you're going to be able to see where within emails people are clicking on. See a few people clapping. So that's something we're going to be releasing very, very soon. Cool. The other thing that's really essential in terms of observation is making sure that the marketing team and the IT and analyst teams are all working really well together. And a really wonderful trend that we're observing is retailers and brands are starting to take way more control of their data. And the cloud revolution is really facilitating this. So we're seeing a lot of folks moving to either Azure, sometimes AWS, but less so, but usually either Azure or Google. And so what we want to do is make it really, really easy for the data that your analyst teams and data science teams have within Google to immediately become available within Bluecore without list funneling and any other complex integrations. So let's say your data science team builds a new model. Instead of that being some export they have to upload somewhere and have some update mechanic or process, the model is going to be real-time available within Bluecore. So they build a new way they want to measure predicted lifetime value, it's going to be real-time available within Bluecore. They update it, it's automatically going to be updated within Bluecore. And the reverse is going to be true. Any of the data within Bluecore, we're going to funnel right back into your IT team's BigQuery instance. So that means that if they want to know what email did this customer receive and what products were in that email, what offer did they get, they're going to have full access to that data for them to do their own analysis. So the idea here is there shouldn't be a tension between these teams. All the data that you folks are leveraging for the automation, we want to make real-time available for the IT teams. So we're very, very excited about that. Okay, let's talk about decisioning. So the number one decision that we as marketers tend to make is on segmentation. And the really hard thing for a product person like me to deal with is the tension between two things. On one hand, there is the simplicity of a segmentation tool that we want to make such that a business user with no understanding of SQL can go in and really easily pull audiences. But on the other hand, there is all of the complexity and flexibility that you folks want when you're asking for really complex audience queries. And managing both of those things is really, really difficult. So our design team has been very hard at work trying to find a way to marry those two things. And we're very, very excited to announce that we're going to be launching a WYSIWYG way to do SQL. So what that means is any sort of complex and/or statements, any sort of complex nesting logic for how you want to pull audiences, cut across CRM data, product data, behavior data is all going to be available in one interface. And this is going to be real time. So you'll be able to say things like find customers that did this activity or this other activity and are in this audience group and have satisfied some other criteria. And you'll be able to nest it. So we're so excited about this because this is going to have the flexibility of SQL without any of the complexity. You don't have to understand any of that complex stuff. But still, this still only solves the problem of segmentation. And we're, in general, not a believer in the idea that segmentation is the coherent or comprehensive answer to personalization. Because still, every time you create a new segment, it's more and more work. So we've been thinking really, really hard about a very common use case that we see you folks go through, which is in a given day, you'll say, hey, here's 6 categories I want to talk about. And what I need to figure out how to do is how to split my list between these 6 categories. I know the 6 messages I want to send, but I don't know who to talk to each one. And then the day after, it's a different 3 messages, and you want to figure out how to split between those 3 groups. So what we're going to be launching, and this one is very, very exciting, is something that we're calling Smart Splits. And what Smart Splits are going to let you do is actually not even think about segmentation. You're just going to build messages. So in this example, let's say you build these 6 messages. Cabela's built these 6 messages. And the creative team built this amazingly branded message on boating, on fishing, and camping. You don't have to worry about how to cut your list. You're just going to tell Bluecore, this is an email I've built about camping. And when you click run, in real time, it's going to split your entire list between these 6 things. It will figure out, given the 6 things you want to talk about, who is going to be the best fit for each of them. And you'll be able to say, I want you to fill out the whole list, or only people that have any interest whatsoever, but you're not going to have to do any work on the segmentation. So we're very, very excited about this because this makes it such that the creative team and the merchant team and you folks can come up with whatever messages you want, and then Bluecore abstracts away the complexity of who is going to care about that message. But what about within a template? What about within one of those specific versions? So another problem comes up, which is, hey, we have all of these creative assets, and we don't really know under what circumstances we should show this asset to this person, this asset to another person. Another problem that comes up if you're using, in Shireen's example, a bolt-on to an existing ESP is the dynamic creative block vendor doesn't know the context of the whole email. So they don't really know what products are beneath it, or what's the subject line, or why are you sending this email. But what this is going to enable you to do, what Smart Areas will let you do, is you're just going to upload content, and you're just going to say, hey, in this example, whenever you're talking about women's sweaters, this is a relevant piece of content. And what Bluecore is automatically going to do is whenever we're talking about Bluecore sweaters, whenever you give it eligibility, it's going to insert this piece of content for you. So what's cool, we were actually talking about this in the exec day sessions yesterday. What this enables you to do is actually make content more evergreen, because every time you send an email communication, only about 20% of people are actually going to see it. So that content is wasted on 80% of people. What this enables you to do is keep content evergreen. The people that never saw it before might be eligible at a later date. Very exciting. But still, there are circumstances where, let's say you're down to the wire, and it's a holiday, and you need to get an email out by 4 p.m. And there's a huge internal debate about which of these 2 emails, usually it's more, maybe there's 3 emails, and there's a bunch of different messages you want to send, and you don't have time to do some prolonged test. So the standard way you do this is something called 10-10-80 testing. Maybe you folks are familiar with it. The idea is you say, hey, I'm going to apply some percentage to each of these. I'm going to let it go out, and whichever the winner is, the rest of the audience will get that. The problem with that manual type of testing is often you don't actually get to any level of statistical significance. Often you're actually sending the test group to too large an audience. So what this is going to make it really easy to do is you're just going to upload the templates, and you're going to say, hey, Bluecore, I'm going to let you figure out which template's the best by 4 p.m. But by 4 p.m., it has to go out. And what this will do is it'll figure out, based on the size of your list, what the percentage of customers it needs to communicate each of these templates to learn which one performs better. And once it gets statistical significance, it will send the winner to the rest of the audience. So you don't have to worry about figuring out the audience lists. It does it automatically. Okay, last one on decisioning. So I was having a conversation about a month ago with the CMO, and we're talking about product recommendations, and they said something really, really fascinating to me. She said to me, product recommendations are actually not great for our business. Because if we use product recommendations, all we would do is sell more polos. And although that might seem like a myopic concept, it's actually quite profound, what she's saying. It's actually, in some ways, quite brilliant. What she's describing is a failure of recommendation algorithms. The recommendation algorithms don't understand your business. What they're optimizing for is solely relevance. So if your main business is selling polos, recommendation algorithms are just going to try and push more polos. Because all they're doing is, based on what I see sell well, I'm just going to push that. So we've been thinking really hard about this problem. We don't think this is a problem with recommendations. We think this is the problem with predominant recommendation tools. So what we're actually going to launch is, in addition to our existing relevance-based recommendations, we're going to be launching something called margin-based recommendations. And what this is going to mean is, it might be the case, in the example of this user, let's say, she bought jeans. And the most relevant thing to push to her is probably more jeans. But let's say jeans are actually not very profitable. And what if, for only a 1% hit on likely conversion rate, dresses are far more profitable? Meaning that even though they're a little bit less likely to convert, the difference in profitability means that there's a huge difference in the expected profit to your business by pushing dresses as opposed to jeans. So margin-based recommendations will actually figure that out. It will natively drive consumers towards profitable products that they're also very likely to be interested in. So we're very, very excited about this, because what we think is this so well marries both the best consumer experience, but also understanding what's best for the business. Very exciting. Okay, so let's lastly talk about action. So one thing we're very excited to talk about is how we're going to be partnering with SMS providers. And obviously, we feel very, very strongly that email is the highest ROI generating channel. The data supports that. We also feel very strongly that email will continue to be an essential channel. But it is also the case that a lot of you folks have an SMS strategy. And SMS, for some consumers, is a very, very compelling channel through which to be communicated to. So we're actually going to be partnering with the ecosystem here, where you're going to be able to leverage any of the Bluecore audiences, any of the Bluecore data, to trigger specific messages within SMS. And what's really cool is over the last 12 months, we've actually really expanded our ecosystem. So there's a bunch of new partners that we've been adding to the Bluecore platform. And this is from new ways you can personalize things. This is from new data you can export. This includes new data you can use. So companies like TrueFit are allowing us to leverage sizing data to be really intelligent what sizes we push to people. So that's just some of the examples of what we're going to be releasing in the next 6 to 12 months. By no means comprehensive, but this is just a sneak peek at the type of investments that we're making at Bluecore Communicate. And we're continuing to double down here because we're very, very excited about it. But even with all of what I just described, the problem is, even if your email experience was the most personalized, relevant, amazing thing ever, when they click on that email, then they're landing on your website and they have a whole set of other steps to do before they purchase. So there's only so much we can really do by personalizing email communications. So we've been thinking about this for a few years, and the last year we've been thinking about this a lot. And there's a bunch of problems these are just some examples of the problems with current website personalization. One, the percentage of people that get an email capture pop-up that are already on your list is absurdly high. And the thing that's really hard is, in order to get new people on your list, you're actually punishing people already on your list because you're hurting the conversion rate by making them not even have to click out of something. In addition, there's completely disparate offers. So it's very common for people to get one offer or one message on email and then see a completely disparate offer when they go to the website, even when they click on that specific email. And lastly, the recommendations that I see, the products that are being promoted to me are often very, very different between these two channels. So we've been working a whole year to launch something that we're very, very excited to talk about, which is bringing all of the magic of the personalization, the full decisioning loop of observing, deciding, and acting with an email to the website. So we're going to be launching something called Bluecore Site, and what this is going to enable you to do is use all of the powerful segmentation, all of the powerful product recommendations, all of the power of predictive analytics directly on the website. And if you think about this conceptually, what's so powerful about Bluecore Site and Communicate working together is Bluecore Communicate works because we have connected your website behavior data to email addresses. The reason why a price drop alert or a new rivals alert works so well is because when a user is browsing your website, we know the email address that it's tied to, and we use that to trigger communications. But now we can do the inverse. When you want to talk to a specific individual customer, we can go back to the browsing behavior and know who are they. And again, we're doing this only with first-party data. We're not sharing any data. There is no third-party tracking. This is fully GDPR compliant. We're building an identity graph within your ecosystem. So one example is the product recommendations can be fully coherent between these two platforms. That means there's not a separate product feed. That means that there's not two different places where you're going to define exclusion logic. This means that if you need to bias recommendations or push certain products, it automatically can occur in both places. So there's no longer this multitude of different decisioning tools that you're leveraging. And the results, we've been in pilot for this for a few months now, and the results have been really, really remarkable. And it's actually quite intuitive. We're not able to perform this much better, not just because we have amazing data scientists, that's true, but also because we just have way more data. The typical recommendation tools don't actually understand the customer. If you actually push them on how are you generating these recommendations, they're saying, oh, well, I just have the catalog. So when you go to a product detail page, I'm just showing you other products that people tend to purchase when they look at this. But Bluecore knows who the person viewing that product is. We know that 3 months ago they made a specific purchase. We know that 6 months ago they opened a specific email and clicked on a product. We know what they're doing across the ecosystem. So it enables us to be way more intelligent about the product recommendations we're pushing people. And we're not just doing product recommendations at all. So we're actually also doing the entire creative workflows that enable you to personalize your website. So this includes things like capturing email addresses. This is going to be native within the Bluecore platform. This includes things like exit prevention. It includes things like dynamic offers. It doesn't have to only be in an overlay. You can insert it directly into the page itself. So all of that, recommendations and website personalization, will exist natively within Bluecore Site. And what's cool is if you go into the platform, what you're going to see is all of the standard targeting that you're used to in any sort of personalization tool. So if you want to say, here's a specific message, and I want to send it to a customer based on geolocation, fully available. I want to send it to a customer based on the device they're using, based on the time, based on the time of day, based on how long they've been on the page. All that's available. But that's table stakes. What is really, really unique about Bluecore Site is without any IT work, without any feeds, any Bluecore audience that you want to talk to, you just push a button and you can automatically talk to them on your site. So this is revolutionary. This means that if you say, hey, here's someone that made offline purchases, and I want to show this message to them on the website. This is not a CSV file that you upload into some tool like a Monotate, then you go to your IT team, ask them to look for some email address, and then do a manual targeting rule, and then run it for 3 weeks and have to do that all over again. This is you go into the same tool that you use to build email audiences, and you create a site campaign, and you say, this is the message I want to push them, and you're done. No IT work, no feeds. This enables you to do things like discount affinity. Say, hey, I want to have an email campaign where I want to message discount A to 15% off, and then I want to discount 30% off to this other consumer based on discount affinity. You do the same thing on site, the exact same consumers are going to see one offer in email, and when they go to the site, they're going to see the same exact offer. Because it's all based on the person, it's not based on just cookie data. So we're very, very excited about this, and we've gotten really great feedback on the email audience targeting thus far, and we're very pumped about it. So here's some examples of things that become possible. So recommendations and overlays. When I come back to the website, instead of, you can, but instead of doing all of the heavy lifting to personalize your homepage, why don't the overlays for existing customers, instead of asking for an email address, why don't they help continue the discovery process? Why don't they maybe include the products that we know they've been interested in based on what they did 3 weeks ago and continue browsing? What if we, instead of getting an email that's super personalized with 4 products, and then I click through it, and now I'm on a static website, and if I want to go back to the email, I have to toggle back to the email, click on another product, go back to the website, go back to the email. What if I get a weekly message with 4 products, when I click through, those 4 products are on the website, and there is some interstitial at the bottom that I can close if I don't want to, but I can actually experience the curated set of products that were sent to me, and I can click through them and I can see all of them. With, again, no work, automatically done. This enables us to do things like, hey, for new viewers, for new visitors, I want to do 15% off. But for people who are at risk, I want to do 50% off. Or people who have a high discount affinity and are at risk. And again, because this connects the CRM and Bluecore audience to the website, these things become possible. In typical website personalization tools, you can only do this segmentation based on direct browse behavior, meaning I will target 50% off to people that viewed URL/discount or whatever, some sort of page like that. But we actually know the consumer, so it can be much more intelligent. This enables the offers to be fully consistent, automatically. There's no reason why you should ever have different offers or different coupons messaged to people between email and site. This enables you to even use our product affinities. One of our most used predictive analytics filters is our product affinities. And what people use this for is they say, hey, we're over on inventory on a certain category. So we really need to push this category. Or let's say there's just some part of the marketing calendar includes promoting specific categories. And you folks use this all the time with an email. You push a message to those with an affinity to a product, whether or not they've purchased it. Perhaps we just predict they'll be interested. What this allows you to do is that exact same workflow on the website. So if it's really important for you to be pushing men's jeans, then all you have to do is say, cool, let's do a promotion on the website personalized for men's jeans only to those people who have an affinity to it, and let's have personalized product recommendations for the specific user only for those that actually care about men's jeans, and have that pop up, or put that anywhere within the website you want. And the last one, you can also do the same thing based on the history. So again, because we have a prolonged history, one of the #1 most clicked on recommendations that we see, not just within us, but based on data we see across vendors, is view history. It's very common for people to want to go back and see something they recently clicked on or they recently viewed and want to check it out again. And what this is going to enable you to do is not only within the session, but across sessions, let people see their view history. So this makes it really easy for people to continue the discovery process across multiple time periods. So we are so excited to launch our second big product line, Bluecore Site, which leverages the exact same decisioning functionality, leverages the exact same data set as Bluecore Communicate. Sits right alongside it, enables you to use the same exact audience logic, enables you to launch these campaigns in coherence with each other. And this is already in pilot. We have some customers using it. So if you want to hear more about it, there's product sessions over there. There's demo booths. Your CSM or account manager should know about it. I'll be walking around. You can just come and attack me and talk to me about it if you want. And thank you very much.